So imagine living your entire life right next door to a monster, like a real-life boogeyman just mowing his lawn, commuting to work, living in this completely quiet, normal suburban neighborhood. For years, witnesses described this terrifying figure to police, literally saying he appeared like an ogre prowling the streets. But here's the thing. This wasn't some urban legend. This was a nightmare hiding in plain sight on Long Island.
Which really begs the question, right? What if the monster is just the architect next door? Well, today we're looking at the absolutely chilling double life of Rex Heuermann. On the surface, a married father of two, play acting as your average suburban dad. But beneath that, he was allegedly carrying out one of the most notorious, horrifying killing sprees in New York history. In this explainer, we're going to break down the relentless, highly methodical, and incredibly high-tech investigation that finally unmasked the Gilgo Beach killer.
The House of Secrets. Let's just dive right into the staggering avalanche of digital and forensic evidence that finally brought this guy down.
Okay, let's get into this. Investigators realized early on that the killer was using burner phones to contact the victims. But instead of just looking at the call logs, they did something brilliant. They mapped out the cell tower data to create a geographical trap. It's like a giant digital puzzle. Step 1. A burner phone is activated right near Heuermann's architecture firm in Midtown Manhattan. Step 2. Contact is made with a victim. Step 3. That phone travels all the way out to Massapequa Park, which is exactly where Heuermann lived. And finally, Step 4. The burner phone goes dark and is discarded shortly after the victim disappeared. I mean, it was literally a digital breadcrumb trail leading right to his front porch.
And this brilliantly sets up their next massive breakthrough. Because cellular records didn't just point to Rex, they actually cleared his family. Investigators pulled his wife's billing records and found this totally rock-solid alibi. Every single time one of these women disappeared, his wife and kids were traveling out of state. We're talking New Jersey, Maryland, even Iceland. So what does this all mean? It meant Rex was left entirely alone, with completely unfettered access to the family home. He had all the privacy he needed to execute these crimes.
But, digital evidence alone wasn't going to cut it for a conviction. They needed physical proof. And to get it, Suffolk County spent a staggering $130,000 on a revolutionary cutting-edge technique called advanced whole genome sequencing. Now, why go to those lengths? Well, the killer was incredibly careful. He removed almost all the physical evidence, but he missed something. He left behind a few microscopic, degraded, rootless hairs on the burlap used to bind the victims. Traditional DNA testing couldn't do anything with them, but this expensive new technology, it was an absolute game changer.
So armed with this amazing new capability, they just needed one thing, Rex Heuermann's DNA to compare it to. But how exactly do you get DNA from a super paranoid suspect? You trail him. Fast forward to January 2023. A surveillance team is following Heuermann right down Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. They watch him finish a slice of pizza and toss the crust into a garbage can. Detectives immediately swoop in, grab that half-eaten pizza crust, and rush it to the lab for a high-stakes comparison. And the lab compared the mitochondrial DNA swabbed from that discarded pizza crust to that tiny, microscopic male hair found near the bottom of the burlap used to restrain Megan Waterman. The result? A 99.96% match. Wow. That breathtaking level of certainty meant they finally had their man. The architect next door was now linked directly to the physical bindings of a Gilgo Beach victim. Part 1. The 87-point murder blueprint. This is where it turns into pure psychological horror. Because arresting him, that was just the beginning. When investigators raided his home and seized all his electronics, they found this hidden file named HK2002-04. Now, Heuermann had actually tried to permanently delete this Microsoft Word document, but a digital forensics team managed to resurrect it from a hard drive stashed down in his basement office. And what they uncovered was, well, the district attorney called it an excruciatingly methodical planning document. It was literally an 87-point blueprint for serial murder. Now, what's really interesting and terrifying about this document is this chilling problems checklist he created. It's this typo-ridden list of paranoid concerns he was systematically tracking so he wouldn't get caught. He's listing things out like DNA, tire marks, fingerprints in gloves, and hair and fiber. He was literally treating murder like it was one of his architectural projects, meticulously analyzing his past mistakes and planning exactly how to refine his terrifying methods. He also used this really dark system of abbreviations throughout the document. DS stood for dump site, TRG meant target. But perhaps the absolute most disturbing one was the term hardpoint. Investigators figured out this referred to a fixed attachment point in a ceiling used for suspension bondage.
And horrifyingly, this correlated directly with a massive collection of violent torture pornography they found in his possession dating all the way back to 1994.
And then there was the body prep section. I mean, just look at these instructions he wrote for himself. Wash body inside and all cavities. Remove trace DNA. Remove ID marks. And finally, remove head and hands. I think the sheer brutality of these bullet points really speaks for itself. And tragically, that last instruction perfectly matched the grim reality of two of the victims, Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor, whose remains were discovered decapitated and dismembered.
Part 2. The Room Downstairs. A hidden vault of secrets.
For the longest time, the public kept wondering, did he have some secret secondary location? But when investigators executed their search warrant at his Massapequa Park property, they found a heavily fortified, thick-walled, soundproof vault hidden right there in the basement. And inside, 279 guns. That's not just a collection, that is a literal fortress. Investigators quickly realized that this soundproof room, which he used while his family was out of town, was more than likely the setting for the horrors he detailed in his planning document.
But the final, devastating confirmation of all this didn't come from a crime lab. It came from a jail cell. After his arrest, his wife, Asa Elarup, filed for divorce, but she still needed to know the truth. According to a new documentary series, she actually visited him in jail, looked at this man she had been married to for 27 years, and confronted him directly. She demanded to know exactly where he had committed these atrocities while she and the kids were away.
So, the crucial point is what she revealed next. In that meeting, Elarup recounted the devastating truth. He said yes, they were killed in his room downstairs, all except one. This admission, which was featured in the 2026 Peacock documentary, fully unmasks the monster. He admitted to bringing these women right into the very home where his children slept, utilizing that basement room to carry out his sick fantasies.
Part 3. 8 Guilty Pleas. The Stunning Legal Conclusion.
With the massive digital footprint, the pizza crust DNA, that horrifying 87-point murder manifesto, and his own chilling confession to his wife closing in, the architect finally gave up his charade. Facing this superseding indictment, he stood before a judge and formally pleaded guilty to the murders of the Gilgo Four, Melissa, Megan, Amber, and Maureen, as well as Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Castilla.
And on that day, April 8, 2026, he actually went a step further. Supposedly in an effort to spare his ex-wife and children the agonizing public spectacle of a full trial, he officially confessed to strangling all 8 victims. He even admitted responsibility for the uncharged murder of Karen Vergata. Just a totally cold, calculated end to a 17-year reign of terror.
This was obviously a monumental victory for law enforcement. District Attorney Ray Tierney summarized the whole thing perfectly. Huerman walked among us acting as a normal suburban dad. He honestly thought that by killing these women, he could silence them forever and just get away with murder. But thanks to the incredibly tireless work of investigators, he was dead wrong.
But here's the crazy part. While the legal case is absolutely closed, a major controversy still remains right there in Massapequa Park. The Huerman house, this literal house of horrors, is still standing. It's currently in his ex-wife's name, and it's become this really dark tourism hotspot, with true crime gawkers just tormenting the neighborhood. The local community is rightfully demanding that the house be completely bulldozed to obliterate the memory of what happened there. So, what do you think? Should this house be demolished? Is it the only way for the neighborhood to finally heal? And that really leaves us with one final haunting thought. Rex Huerman confessed to 8 murders over a 17-year period. But for a man with a highly methodical 87-point blueprint for killing, someone who obsessively refined his techniques just to avoid getting caught, is it really possible he stopped at 8? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are there more victims out there? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you guys in the next one.